Welcome to the Vintage Hollywood Archive. Shirley Temple was the child star who helped the U.S. through the Depression and went on to serve 2 stints as an ambassador. Temple's career as an actress ended more than 50 years ago, yet she is still best known for her performances as a child in 1930s Hollywood. But there is so much more behind this innocent little girl image. How Shirley Temple dealt with the abusive studio system. Make sure to watch the video until the end and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you're new here, join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Vintage Hollywood Archive channel. Shirley Temple, America's little darling. Shirley Temple's story is a model of a child star resilience. For all her fame, Hollywood wasn't always kind to the beloved actor, but she thrived, basically meltdown-free, until her death at age 85. Why? Can the most famous child in the world grow up emotionally unscarred? For many years stretch in the mid-1930s, Shirley Temple was Hollywood's biggest box office draw every year. She pulled in a Special Academy Award for her outstanding contribution to screen entertainment during the year 1934 when she was just 6 years old, and her career really took off after that. After her prepubescent acting gigs, Shirley Temple went on live to live a meltdown-free career as a diplomat, political activist, and mother of 3. That fact made her perhaps the best example of a child star who came out the other side sane and used her fame for a great second act. Very much like her contemporary child stars, such as Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland, the late Shirley Temple faced the uncontrolled abuses of being a youth in a very abusive studio system. In marked contrast to the likes of Judy Garland, Temple made the transition from child actress to wife, mother, and politician, living a long and apparently fulfilling life. Shirley's story has more of a happy ending. Unlike a host of gone-wrong Hollywood squirts, Shirley Temple never blamed grown-up problems on her youthful past, which included a stage mom who allowed her cherubic daughter to make more than 40 films before her 12th birthday. Shirley Temple did not pile up scandals or turn to drugs or booze or semi-nude layouts in glossy magazines. Shirley Temple will forever be etched into pop culture history as the perennially positive child star with 56 blonde ringlets who starred in more than 24 movies in the 1930s, bringing a dose of optimism to Americans during the Great Depression. Bright Eyes launched on the good ship Lollipop and sent Temple's career soaring. Their numbers epitomized her persona as a cherubic darling. Mothers dressed their daughters like her, and a line of dolls was launched that are still highly sought after. She had a drink named after her, a sweet cocktail of ginger ale and grenadine topped with a maraschino cherry. Gertrude worked hard to keep her daughter from being spoiled by fame and was a constant presence on set. Shirley recalled years later that her mother had been furious when a director sent her off on an errand and then made Temple cry for a scene by frightening her. "She never again left me alone on a set," she said. Thanks to Gertrude, her young life was free of the scandals that plagued other child stars, parental feuds, drugs, and alcohol. But Temple also spoke of a childhood she missed out on. She said she stopped believing in Father Christmas when she was 6. "Mother took me to see him in a department store and he asked for my autograph. People in the Depression wanted something to cheer them up, and they fell in love with a dog and a little girl." America needed Shirley Temple. In the grip of the Depression, the dimpled, curly-haired child star sang, danced, sobbed, and grinned her way into audiences' hearts. "As long as our country has Shirley Temple, we will be all right," President Roosevelt declared. When the spirit of the people is lower than at any other time during this Depression, it is a splendid thing that for just 15 cents, an American can go to a movie and look at the smiling face of a baby and forget his troubles. She was America's top box office draw from 1935 to 1938, ahead of such grown-up stars as Clark Gable, Bing Crosby, Robert Taylor, Gary Cooper, and Joan Crawford. In 1938, the year of Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm, her income was the 7th highest in the country, behind 6 industrialists. Along the way, she saved 20th Century Fox from bankruptcy, but as she moved into her teens, the cinema-going public didn't move with her, and her film career was over at 21. After dabbling in television, she forged a second career as a diplomat, who was twice made an ambassador, once to Czechoslovakia as communism fell. She was born in Santa Monica in 1928. Her father, George, worked in a bank. Her mother, Gertrude, encouraged her to learn to dance, and she was enrolled in the Macleod Dance Studio in Los Angeles, also known as Macleod's Wondrous Hollywood Kiddies. When she was 3, Judy Garland had also been a Macleod kiddie. At the age of 3, she began her career and a salary of $25. Temple was spotted by an agent when she was 4 years old in 1932 and was chosen to appear in Baby Burlesques, which the newspaper described as a series of sexually suggestive one-reel shorts in which children played all the roles. Temple, wearing skin-bearing costumes, imitated adult screen sirens Marlene Dietrich, Mae West, and Dolores Rio. Temple described them as a cynical exploitation of our childish innocence that occasionally were racist or sexist. There was very little room for mistakes. Films were shot in a matter of days. If Shirley messed up, she was sent to the punishment box, which was a tiny, dark room containing a block of ice, which later gave her nightmares. Shirley had to keep working under all circumstances. Once, after surgery for a punctured eardrum, she was forced back to work the next day. Another time, after injuring her foot, she was allowed no rest and was forced to dance with her injured limb. Her natural optimism allowed her to continue working and show none of that stress on the screen. Temple signed with Fox Film Corporation. She had a few small parts before making her breakthrough in 1934 with Stand Up and Cheer, which portrayed a U.S. president's attempts to lift the country's depression-hit morale. Fox executives were sold on Temple, and even before the film was released, she was being pushed into the spotlight, though she was by no means the film's star. Her salary was raised to $1,250 a week, and her mother's to $150 as her coach and hairdresser. By the time she was loaned to Paramount a few months later for Little Miss Marker, a comedy drama based on a Damon Runyon story, she was already America's most potent symbol of wholesome family entertainment. Shirley Temple. She was the top box office draw until 1939. By that time, she was no longer earning $25 per week, but over $300,000 per film, even at that time an amazing salary. Not all critics fell for her. Reviewing Wee Willie Winkie for the magazine Night and Day, Graham Greene wrote, "Adult emotions of love and grief glissade across the mask of childhood, a childhood that is only skin deep. It is clever, but it cannot last." His piece was held to be defamatory, and the magazine was bankrupted by the ensuing lawsuit. Fox's attempt to rival The Wizard of Oz with their big-budget The Blue Bird was a huge flop. MGM wanted to borrow Shirley to play Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. However, Fox refused to lend her out to MGM. At that point, Judy Garland eclipsed Shirley as the top female child star. She joined the great black dancer Bill Bojangles Robinson in 2 1935 films with Civil War themes, The Little Colonel and The Littlest Rebel. Their tap dance up the steps in the former, coming at a time when interracial pairings were unheard of in Hollywood, became a landmark in the history of film dance. There was little about her life that was normal. She had school lessons at the studio from tutors, was accompanied by bodyguards wherever she went, and outside working hours tended to stay at home. Her life was insured for $795,000, with 20th Century Fox the only beneficiary. On her 8th birthday, she was actually turning 9, but the studio needed her to stay young. She received more than 135,000 presents from around the world, including a baby kangaroo from Australia and a prize Jersey calf from school children in Oregon. Maintaining that level of stardom proved difficult. When The Little Princess in 1939 and The Bluebird in 1940 didn't do well at the box office, Fox let her go. America didn't want its childhood idol to grow up, and neither did Fox. When she became a teenager, she even faced the advances of slimy studio bosses. David O. Selznick, according to Shirley, once chased her around his desk as he tried to bed her. Comic George Jessel was kicked in the groin by Shirley as he tried to grope her. Shirley never got over the attempt of the bigwigs always trying to grope her. In her memoir Child Star, actress Shirley Temple claimed that an MGM producer, known to have an adventuresome casting couch, unzipped his trousers and exposed himself to her during their first meeting in 1940. She was 12. Being innocent of male anatomy, she responded with nervous laughter, and he threw her out of his office. Fortunately, she had already signed her contract with MGM. Temple writes that this gave her the impression that casual sex could be a condition of employment with Selznick. Indeed, it seems it was, as evidenced by an encounter Temple had with him when she was 17. Coming around my side of the desk, he reached and took my hand in his. Glancing down, I saw the telltale stocking feet. Pulling free, I turned for the door, but even more quickly, he reached back over the edge of his desk and flicked a switch I had learned from Colby was a remote door locking device. I was trapped. Like the cartoon of Wolf and Piglet, once again, we circled and reversed directions around his furniture. Blessed with the agility of a young dancer and confronted by an amorous but overweight producer, I had little difficulty avoiding passionate clumsiness. She followed up with a string of hit films, most of them with sentimental themes and musical subplots. To deter the studio dirtbags, Shirley married fellow actor John Agar at 17, hoping he would protect her. Agar turned out to be a philandering drinker who constantly beat Shirley. Shirley withstood the years of abuse from studio honchos, not to mention her own father and first husband. She even thought about suicide to escape him. She got in her car one night, thinking about driving over a cliff. Shirley instead took matters into her own hands. She divorced Agar at age 22 and retired from films. She then learned that her father George had squandered her $3 million in earnings. Only $30,000 remained. There was much more to Temple than curls and cute songs, however. She brought a professionalism well beyond her years to every film she made. She was just absolutely marvelous, greatest in the world, recalled Alan Dwan, who directed her in Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm and Heidi the previous year. You'd just tell her once and she'd remember the rest of her life. Whatever it was she was supposed to do, she'd do it. And if one of the actors got stuck, she'd tell them what his line was. She knew it better than he did. There was a career of sorts on the small screen. In 1958, she hosted and narrated Shirley Temple's Storybook, an anthology series of fairy tale adaptations. But as she grew up, her screen career, big and small, was over. Being America's sweetheart didn't last forever, and neither did her successes at the box office as she grew up. Her interest in politics soon brought her back into the spotlight. By the age of 22, she officially retired from show business, eventually paving a prominent career for herself in politics, and held several diplomatic posts in Republican administrations, which lasted longer than her time in Hollywood. In 1972, she raised awareness of breast cancer after having successful surgery to combat the disease. In 1972, she underwent surgery for breast cancer and urged other women to have a checkup, telling the world, "I have much more to accomplish before I'm through." She wrote a best-selling memoir, raised a family of her own, and continued to captivate audiences with a life made fit for the big screen. She made an unsuccessful bid for Congress as a Republican in 1967, and when Richard Nixon became president, he made her a member of the U.S. delegation to the UN General Assembly. In the 1970s, she was ambassador to Ghana and also served as the first female U.S. chief of protocol. She straightened out her life, married businessman Charles Black. They remained married for 55 years and had 2 children, Charles Jr. and Lori. She ended up becoming quite influential and became an ambassador to Africa and a U.S. representative to the United Nations. Her story, despite the abuse that affected Judy Garland, Mickey Rooney, and others, overcame, and she lived a great life with a happy ending. She considered her showbiz background an asset to her political career. "Politicians are actors too, don't you think?" she once said. "Usually if you like people and you're outgoing, not a shy little thing, you can do pretty well in politics." In 2006, as she was honored by the Screen Actors Guild, "I have one piece of advice for those of you who want to receive the Lifetime Achievement Award," she told the assembled gathering. "Start early." She died in 2014 at the age of 85. While she had difficulties with her daughter Lori and substance abuse, her life was mostly upbeat. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're new here.